I'm still learning up on my Hebrew, so I may have missed some nuances in the presentations to date. But I understand the irony of me having a completely different template from the others that you'll see today, because I wanted to be consistent with my voice. And you'll see a lot of notebooks and coffee mugs and glasses and stuff that are things that are consistent of my lifestyle. I have my email address up here in case you want to email me afterwards or meet up or anything. And I wanted to talk about consistency because it's something that needs speaking to across B2B or B2C companies. And I found this across my experiences with American companies, Israeli companies, European companies, everyone really thinking about their voice, how they present themselves, and how consistent that is online and offline, especially today. So first, I just wanted to start with a definition of consistency. I think the second definition we care less about in terms of liquid, but it is certainly fueling us this morning in terms of coffee and orange juice. The first one, though, in terms of presenting something for the sake of a flow of logic, accuracy, and fairness. Each one of those words is really, really significant because you want to be accurate in terms of how you convey yourself. You want to convey a sense of logic, of flow, of where you're leading people, and then certainly of fairness. The fairness point is interesting because there's a psychology to all of this. The three psychological points that I want to highlight here are repetition. From the time that you're a child, you like to be consistently rocked in a certain method and spacing, cadence. That reassures you. Speaking to Limor's point about the Mahatma Gandhi quote, fear is the enemy. If you are not consistently, repetitively messaged about something, you are concerned about where you are being led. So you really want to have a flow and a cadence that makes sense to you and that you know where you're being led. Knowing what to expect next is really important. If I started reciting the alphabet and then throwing numbers in there and then words, you wouldn't know where I was going and where you wanted to be led with that. And then comfort and containment. This isn't in the sense of being a caged animal, but there's a certain chute that you're trying to push people through in a B2B or B2C environment with your apps, with your websites. You're trying to set up a flow in terms of where people go next, what type of action they can anticipate that they want to take because you're leading them there. And then consistency really, if you're doing it well, enables three things in my mind. One is rhythm and expectation setting, as we've spoken about. Predictable actions, people know which button they're going to click on, whether it's to call you, whether it's to try something out, whether it's to ask more questions, that there's an FAQ section if you're setting up a new category of technology that they're not accustomed to. And then finally, there's a level of trust that's engendered. If you are consistent, if you do what you say you're going to do, it's the same as really having a strong presence online and off. So how do you do this? There's kind of, in my mind, a macro level and a micro level. On the macro level, I put partners up there because I often don't see in companies, especially B2B companies, marketing people really partnering with two kinds of people. One is the sales team, really effectively, because there's a feedback loop that you consistently have to check back into. And then a senior champion. It doesn't matter if it's your CEO, CMO, or a head of sales, but somebody who believes in what you are doing at a fundamental level, and then making sure that you partner with them effectively to get the kind of feedback that you need, because you're not going to be operating in a silo, and you need somebody who you're going to consistently give your measurements to so that you keep getting better, and so that you keep tweaking in terms of which kinds of measurements resonate with different people. Your brand is online and offline. I think we all know this, but making sure that your voice is consistent across the online and offline in terms of the coloring, the structure, and all of that is really, really important. If you're an Apple store, right, your Apple store is white, it's clean, it's simple, as is your website. And then what's the sound of your voice? I think this is something that people really don't spend enough time thinking about. Is it smooth? Is it staccato? Is it very neutral and factual, objective? Or is it more exciting than that? Are you introducing something in the B2B space which is igniting other people? which is a new concept, then be a little bit more hyper, colorful in your presentation and how you're presenting things. And then on the micro level, I think that wireframing the whole flow, I've really seen breaks in this in terms of where companies are leading people. I think the most difficult thing that I've seen with some Israeli companies that I've met with is not really thinking about the potential breaks within a flow. The clearest example is I've seen a lot of YouTube videos put into websites, and YouTube videos you can't control where your customer is going to go once they land on all those little cubes of different videos. You don't control the thumbnails of all of those. If you're a gaming company that's geared towards 5-year-old kids, 10-year-old kids, or something like that, and they all of a sudden land on a YouTube slide of all these images, half of them could be really frightening to both the kids and their parents. And you have no control over that. So it's a shortcut. It's a hack that's meant to be very quick and simple, but it's one that doesn't reinforce what you're doing as a gaming company, as somebody who's speaking to children and parents. I think that's really important. What are all the distractions? So I worked with a pet insurance company, and there's a number of distractions that happen off the screen. When you're in the middle of a flow of buying insurance, and thinking about something, your dog, your child, somebody could easily distract you off that computer screen. And so if somebody times out, you could easily throw up a banner that says, oh, you must have been feeding your dog or taking care of your child or something. Some way to connect with your audience again while they're off the screen reinforces that voice and that messaging that says you know who they are, you know what they're doing. The same thing can happen with, say, an integration company. A large global company, one that I've worked with actually, didn't think enough about the seamlessness of their voice and thinking about the challenges that were happening within their target market and the distractions that were happening for them in their real life. If they highlighted those challenges over the products that they were trying to sell, they would have had that much more resonance in real time. So through those, I know that the focus of today is measurement. There are really simple ways to measure consistency and breaks. Obviously, a lot of you are familiar with traffic, open rates, click-throughs, dupes, and all of that sort of stuff, people then flowing off the stream. These are all simple numbers that you can track through Google Analytics, MailChimp, and stuff like that. But paying attention to them differently is really the focus. Create a benchmark. I believe Limor was talking about the benefits of benchmarks as well. You are going to iterate in terms of how you're presenting yourself and the wireframes you're creating. So set a benchmark and then go back through page by page in your website or page to phone call back to website in terms of your sales cycle and make sure that there are no breaks and then track what that improvement is once there's simpler consistency, once you're getting people to flow through that motion in a shorter period of time. And furthermore, on that point, qualitative. It's not just the quantitative numbers, the qualitative numbers are important as well. Go back to your audience and speak to them about what is beneficial, what's not beneficial, what they're looking for. The tips that I wanted to highlight, again, were partner up internally. Make sure that you have reinforcements. Some of you are teams of 1 or consultants. Others are teams of 5 to 10 people. And so you need to go outside of that ecosystem, outside of the trough of what you're thinking about every day, and find out what resonates most with people outside of your grouping. Scrutinize that flow. Make sure that you actually draw out the steps in the process, the flow chart, and where they can break. Is it within 5 minutes of going on your website? Is it that they're only looking at 1 page instead of the 3 that you want to see? How can you synthesize those things together? Measure the impact of the consistency and share that internally. It's important. If somebody above you is interested but it's not getting through to your CEO, reinforce that partnership, make sure those numbers are resonating, and then move on back up the food chain. Speak in your voice all the time, even if it's talking to yourself in the mirror, in the voice that you need to iterate. It'll create different nuances, just like a different language will, in terms of what you're trying to say and what you're trying to push forward. And that's it. So consistency, hopefully, is something that we all care about. That's it.